Overview. No One Cares About Crazy People, The Chaos and Heartbreak of Mental Health in America, 2017, by Ron Powers, is a memoir by the father of two schizophrenic sons, Dean and Kevin. Powers incorporates history about the treatment of mental illness into personal narrative about his family. When Powers' younger son, Kevin, was just shy of his 21st birthday in 2005, he committed suicide. Schizophrenia is a mental illness associated with both genetic and environmental factors. The disease usually manifests late in adolescence when the brain's prefrontal cortex is in the final stages of its development. In 1988, Ron and his wife Honoree moved from New York City to Middlebury, Vermont, in search of a quiet, safe life for their boys. They were a happy and ordinary family. Kevin took an interest in the guitar and proved to be a talented musician. Dean excelled in school and was a passionate creative writer. Ron and Honoree occasionally noticed strange behaviors in Dean, including his aloofness, but mostly Dean seemed like a normal kid. In 1998, when Dean was a high school junior, his life changed forever. While driving home from a party with a female friend, he lost control of the car and ran into a tree. His friend was knocked unconscious and remained comatose for weeks. Dean was charged with a felony even though he wasn't legally intoxicated. Although the young woman's parents asked for a prison sentence, the court put him on probation instead. Dean's friend recovered, but Powers believes it was stress from this experience that contributed to Dean's development of schizophrenia. Kevin started school at Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan. Dean went to Fort Lewis College in Colorado and then to Colorado State. At arts school, Kevin thrived and even recorded an album. In early 2002, though, things took a turn for the worse. Kevin claimed he had a substance abuse problem, but it turned out he was hallucinating, and this hallucination was a symptom of his mental illness. Later, after moving to Boston to continue his studies at Berklee College of Music, he called his parents and falsely stated he'd been selected to go on a concert tour in Russia. Kevin told them he was getting on a bus to Los Angeles and that he was going to become a rock star. They could not locate him until a New York State policeman called Honoree to say he had removed a disoriented Kevin from the bus and taken him to a hospital. Kevin was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. After receiving the diagnosis, he went on and off his antipsychotic medication. Finally, a psychiatrist gave Kevin a schizophrenia diagnosis. Kevin's mental health continued to deteriorate. In July 2005, Ron found Kevin in the basement. Kevin had hanged himself. After Kevin's suicide, Dean, then 23, became a caretaker for his grief-stricken parents. Despite his grief, Dean continued pursuing his career as a journalist, but the painful disillusion of a romantic relationship was the final straw. In the wake of the breakup, Dean began to present symptoms of schizophrenia by 2012. With the help of a psychiatrist named Gordon Frankel, Dean committed to undergoing counseling and taking medication and has been able to manage his disease. In telling his family story, Powers provides a history of the medical system's treatment of schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. He surveys the history of institutionalization from the 13th century Bedlam Asylum in London to England's 18th century charitable asylums offering moral care to America's Philadelphia Hospital. He explains how Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection paved the way for genetics and, not long after, eugenics, a tool Hitler's scientists experimented with to produce desired biological traits in offspring. Since the advent of deinstitutionalization in the 1960s, the system has sent more and more people to prison as a means of dealing with the number of mentally ill individuals on the streets. Deinstitutionalization started when people began to question whether mental illness was real. Thomas Szasz' The Myth of Mental Illness, 1961, shaped the medical community's view and launched an anti-psychiatry movement. Legislation such as the Community Mental Health Act, 1963, also facilitated deinstitutionalization. Unfortunately, this led to the widespread homelessness and subsequent incarceration of the mentally ill. Jails and prisons became the country's new mental health facilities. Powers argues that moving forward, mental health care reform will rely on both scientific progress and society's renewed commitment to moral care.